Hello again, you're welcome to this class. Last class we talked about the vector drawing tools. So today we're going to have a look at the freehand drawing tool. So first and foremost, the freehand drawing tool is this option here, where you see it, and it's a very good tool for drawing very free strokes. So you could use it like a pen. So if you have a graphics tablet or a drawing pad, you could connect that up and then use that to draw. You could also use your mouse, but I think a pen tablet is going to be recommended. So let's look at what this tool can do. So first and foremost, we have the options for the freehand, and these options can change the way the pen works. So let's give it some stroke. First of all, I'm going to enable the stroke, and it's going to draw based on my settings, as you can see here. We also have autofill, which gives us an automatic fill for our shape. So you see it gives us the color automatically. So we have those options, and then we have some other options here where we can see we have pen pressure. So pen pressure is going to make my line to have some form of pressure. So if I were to hit hard on my tablet, it's going to be thicker, and then if I do it quite small, it's going to reduce the size of the pen, as you can see here. Also going to disable autofill. So the option here for the variation of the width, this is based on, this is the maximum size, right? And this is going to be the minimum, right? So if I were to set it for, let's say, like 0%, all right, 0 would mean that the line has no variation, all right? But the higher I set it, the lower it can get, right, based off this value here. So I would recommend you give it a better value. Okay, so this could be fine if you like. Something in between, maybe sweet spot like 40, 30, I'd recommend. It's pretty okay. Alright, so this is when you have a graphics tablet. It's not going to work when you don't have a graphics tablet. But if you do not have a graphics tablet, you're going to use these options here, which for the taper, start and end, and this is going to give you an automatic tapering at the end and at the start. Okay, so when you draw a line, it's going to automatically reduce the end and the start. Alright, that's for the option. But because I have a graphics tablet, this is going to override this option. Next up, we have this smooth. The smoothing, just show you how that works. When I draw a shape, you see it's going to be making my line to be as smooth as possible. Alright, so even if I shake my pen while drawing, it's going to smoothen that out for me. Right? So I'll say don't do it too much. Just give it a very modest value, maybe about 20, 30. It's okay. So it just gives that nice smoothing at the end. Alright, so next up, let's look at this option. We have point reduction. Point reduction means that when I draw a line, it's going to try and reduce the points. Alright, so let's say I have, like, let's make it about close to 100, and then I draw a line. I'm going to go back and then reduce that number to something quite minimal. Let's say 30, okay, and draw the same kind of line, right? You see that these 2 points look the same, but when I look at the what those points actually have, you see that one has more than the other, right? So I'm going to zoom in. So you can see that this has more points than this. Alright, so when I have point reduction essentially helps me reduce the amount of points based on my stroke. Alright, so if I increase this value to a very high amount and I draw, let's say, something like this, alright, it's going to try its best to reduce these points to the maximum. But then let's say I take it back, maybe like something very low, you'd see that the points are going to be left almost the way they are. The benefit of having lower point reduction is that it gives you the original shape you drew, but then with the addition of having a point reduction, it might alter your shape. So just take that into consideration. So look for a sweet spot, and I would recommend something not too low but not too high as well. Okay, so that's how you do that. And then we have some other options. We have weld ends. The weld ends, I think the best thing to show would be to draw a line. So I'm going to draw this, and then I draw. Okay, so while I draw that option, when I'm drawing, you see a red icon, and that's going to help me snap it to itself to create a shape. Alright, so that's what weld ends does. It welds the ends of the lines together. Alright, we're going to have some look on some other options, but for now that's what we're going to cover, majorly on the tool options. So some quick shortcuts. When you are drawing your line, you could actually increase the size of the brush. So you could do that by holding your alternate key, and then you click and drag. That's going to increase or reduce the line. So when you drag left, right, up, down, you see the size changes. And where I lock it in, this is going to be the size of my brush, which is quite large. So yeah, we could adjust the sizes based on these options. But you could also have another shortcut where we could erase. So just have a look at the options down here to see some of the tool tips for you, right? So you could see that we have Control or Command while we click to erase a line. So I could hold it and then I click and drag, and then I can erase my line. So every tool has tool tips, check them out. So the last thing we'll talk about now is the brush style. We're going to have a look at the style palette later on, but just to quickly show you what this does, I could actually create or change the style of my brush, so I could change the style to be maybe more like this, and then I can draw, and it's going to mimic that style. Alright, and mind you, all of these are still vector. So if you want to have good free drawing and still have your vector lines, Moho has that option with the Freehand tool. So you could actually use this to create your landscape, create more interesting tools, create more interesting shapes, build out your world scene. I want you to create a very interesting scene. Alright, so we would have something very, very nice at the end of this lesson. Right, you could do a lot of things with this tool. I would recommend you really dive deeper into this, and if you don't have a drawing tablet, use your mouse, that's fine, or use the other drawing tools I've showed you before now, like the basic shapes tool and all, so you could really do a lot of things with this. I could come here and create like maybe a more natural looking landscape. So let's disable this first of all. Let's add auto fill. Maybe we'll do like a grass. So we'll do this. Maybe I don't even want any strokes, right? So I can just really draw out very simple grass sort of environment, and then I could really do a lot of things with this. Maybe you can add, I want some form of I want a concept sword for my character, so maybe I'll just like try and sketch out sword. Maybe I want like the sword to be something like this, like there is a lot of things I could do with this tool. Alright, and of course this is still a vector shape, and I could take this and then move it to my character if I want. Alright, I could scale it. Let's undo that. Come here, scale it down a bit, so I could give my character, I could even draw out more nice looking character with my freehand tool. Okay, but I think that I've taught you how to use it enough. So I want to see what you come up with, because in our next class we're going to have a look at the style palette, where we dive deeper into how we customize our styles.